All right, we're in Leviticus chapter 5 and chapter 6. Still dealing with sacrifices, still dealing with how to handle sin. Uh, in the first few chapters, it's been more generalized. Now, God is going to be specific in different sins and what they require. So let's just go ahead and get into that. Leviticus, beginning in chapter 5, beginning in verse 1. If you refuse to testify in court about something you saw or know has happened, you have sinned and can be punished. You're guilty and unfit to worship me if you accidentally touch the dead body of any kind of unclean animal. You're guilty if you find out that you have accidentally touched any waste that comes from a human body. You're guilty the moment you realize that you have made a hasty promise to do something good or bad. As soon as you discover that you have committed any of these sins, you must confess what you have done. Then you must bring a female sheep or goat to me as the price for your sin. A priest will sacrifice the animal, and you will be forgiven. If you are poor and cannot afford to bring an animal, you may bring 2 doves or 2 pigeons. One of these will be a sacrifice to ask for my forgiveness. The other will be a sacrifice to please me. Give both birds to the priest, who will offer one as a sacrifice to ask my forgiveness. He will wring its neck without tearing it off its head. Splatter some of its blood on one side of the bronze altar and drain out the rest at the foot of the altar. Then he will follow the proper rules for offering the other bird as a sacrifice to please me. You will be forgiven when the priest offers these sacrifices as the price for your sin. If you are so poor that you cannot afford doves or pigeons, you may bring 2 pounds of your finest flour. This is a sacrifice to ask my forgiveness. So don't sprinkle olive oil or sweet-smelling incense on it. Give the flour to a priest who will scoop up a handful and send it up in smoke together with the other offerings. This is a reminder that all of the flour belongs to me. But by offering the sacrifice, the priest pays the price for any of these sins that you may have committed. The priest gets the rest of the flour, just as he does with the grain sacrifices. The Lord told Moses what the people must do to make things right when they find out they have cheated the Lord without meaning to. If this happens, you must either sacrifice a ram that has nothing wrong with it, or else pay the price of the ram with official money used by the priests. In addition, you must pay what you owe plus a fine of 20%. Then the priest will offer the ram as a sacrifice to make things right, and you will be forgiven. If you break any of my commands without meaning to, you are still guilty, and you can be punished. When you realize what you have done, you must either bring to the priest a ram that has nothing wrong with it, or else pay him for one. The priest will then offer it as a sacrifice to make things right, and you will be forgiven. Now remember, as we go into the New Testament, these sacrifices are going on all the time. You have a couple million people who are sacrificing animals because of their sins. So if they are focusing on God, they're doing that. They're giving their birds, they're giving their livestock. And if they don't have it, here's what we find in the New Testament, and I'm sure it was happening in the Old Testament too, is that the priests were charging huge amounts of money for a ram or for a goat or for a sheep, and was ripping people off who were trying to make things right for God. So chapter 6. The Lord told Moses what the people must do when they commit other sins against the Lord. You have sinned if you rob or cheat someone, if you keep back money or valuables left in your care, if you find something and claim not to have it. When this happens, you must return what doesn't belong to you and pay the owner a fine of 20%. In addition, you must either bring to the priest a ram that has nothing wrong with it, or else pay him for one. The priest will then offer it as a sacrifice to make things right, and you will be forgiven for what you did wrong. The Lord told Moses to tell Aaron and his sons how to offer the daily sacrifices that are sent up in smoke to please the Lord. You must put the animal for the sacrifice on the altar in the evening and let it stay there all night. But make sure the fire keeps burning. The next morning you will dress in your priestly clothes, including your linen underwear, then clean away the ashes left by the sacrifices and pile them beside the altar. Change into everyday clothes, take the ashes outside of the camp, and pile them in a special place. The fire will never go out, so put the wood on it each morning. After this, you are to lay an animal on the altar next to the fat that you sacrificed to ask my blessing. Then send it up in smoke to me. The altar fire will always be kept burning. It must never go out. When someone offers a sacrifice to give thanks to me, the priest from Aaron's family must bring it to the front of the bronze altar, where one of them will scoop up a handful of flour and oil together with all the incense in it. Then, to show that the whole offering belongs to me, he will lay all of this on the altar and send it up in smoke with a smell that pleases me. The rest of it is to be baked without yeast and eaten by the priest in the sacred courtyard of the sacred tent. This bread is very holy, just like the sacrifices for sin or for making things right. And I have given this part to the priest from what he has offered to me on the altar. Only the men in Aaron's family are allowed to eat this bread. They must go through a ceremony to be made holy before touching it. This law will never change. The Lord spoke to Moses and told him what sacrifices the priest must offer on the morning and the evening of the day that they are ordained. It is the same as the regular morning and evening sacrifices: a pound of flour mixed with olive oil and cooked in a shallow pan. The bread must then be crumbled into small pieces, sent up as smoke, with a smell that pleases me. Each of Aaron's descendants who is ordained as a priest must perform this ceremony and make sure that the bread is completely burned on the altar. None of it may be eaten. The Lord told Moses how the priests from Aaron's family are to offer the sacrifice for sin. This sacrifice is very sacred, and the animal must be killed in my presence at the north side of the bronze altar. The priest who offers the sacrifice must eat it in the sacred courtyard of the sacred tent, and anyone or anything that touches the meat will be holy. If any of the animal's blood is splattered on the clothes of the priest, they must be washed in a holy place. If the meat is cooked in a clay pot, that pot must be destroyed. But if it was cooked in a bronze pot, the bronze pot must be scrubbed and rinsed with water. This sacrifice is very holy, and only the priest may have any part of it. None of the meat may be eaten from the sacrifices for sin that require blood to be brought into the sacred tent. These sacrifices must be completely burned. So there we have a couple of chapters dealing with specific sins and what needs to be done. There's a point to all of this, and God will make that clear here in the near future. Hope you have a great day.